Hello, my name is host Eric. I am the host of Talking with Famous People, and today we are talking about the various types and how they break down in terms of order of operations of approaching any given new event in the world. So let's start with my own type, get it out of the way first, and do the Alpha Quadra. ENTP goes metaphysical action first. That means walking in any situation looking to make meaning, and then I think about it. So basically, leap, land, and go, oh shit. That's thinking about it. Third, I say, help me. That's extroverted feeling. And then fourth, I say, don't do that again. So it's metaphysical action, then metaphysical evaluatory metric on consistency, metaphysical evaluatory metric on social stuff, and physical evaluatory physical form of knowledge in introverted sensing. Metaphysical is my overall type. INTP, same, um, same three one. Everyone is going to be 3-1, 3 metaphysical, 1 physical, or vice versa. INTP is the same. It goes for them, however, it goes start with a metaphysical consistency function. So you're going to check for consistency first. Then you're going to come up with possibilities about what to do with it. Metaphysical action second. Then you're going to evaluate it in terms of existing knowledge and keep track of it. Physical knowledge action, physical knowledge making third, and then finally you're going to engage in the checking to make sure that it's metaphysically sound with social stuff. Now for the S's in the Alpha Quadra. ESFJ. ESFJ is going to first and foremost check to make sure it is metaphysically sound with society, the other people around. Second, they're going to refer to and render to physical knowledge, that is, say, memory, keeping track of shit. And then third, they're going to generate possibilities about what they've evaluated socially, what they've confirmed and checked against their determinate matters, things planned, things remembered, things already known and determinate, not yet to be decided about. And then in there, so they're going to make possibilities about that shit. And then lastly, in their last function, they're going to check for consistency with TI, check to make sure that it's the right thing to do in general, not just a way to do it. All right, and then lastly for that quadra, it's ISFJ. They're probably the most sensible seeming order of operations of anybody. They begin with checking their existing knowledge, their physical knowledge, their memory of what's already occurred, and their determined plans that they already know are going to be the outcome of first. Then they check to see how can I manage those things in relation to social outcomes. They check to make sure everybody's happy and they're managing people's perceptions. Then third, they're going to check for consistency, and finally they're going to generate new possibilities. That seems to be a sensible order of operations. Let's go to a different quadra now. Let's talk about the quadra with INFJ in it. That's INFJ, ENFJ, and then ESTP and ISTP. So INFJ is going to begin with introverted intuition, which is going to be truth, knowing the truth of things, knowing fundamentally whether something is the correct one, the best one, the knowing whether there's a fatal flaw that everybody's missed, stuff like that. So they begin with NI, whole truths, and metaphysical knowledge. Then they follow that up with metaphysical evaluatory metric on perception management. Then they go evaluatory metric on consistency, and finally they go physical action. So in the fourth slot, their equivalent of SI for me is physical action. They go know, manage perceptions, check for correctness, and then take action on it. It's not a bad order of operations to have, except their SE tends to be a little weak and they tend to be a little action deprived. Now, if we look at the ENFJ in contrast, they go FE first. That means they're taking metaphysical action on perceptions first. Then they follow it up with NI, which means then they check to make sure what's actually true and right. They know the truth of things metaphysically as a tool function, and so they perceive, basically they judge according to the social perceptions management aspect, and then they know the truth of that as a tool function. And then third, they take physical action based on those truths that they know about perception management. And then last, they check for consistency. So they're much more likely than a lot of other types to make the same sort of mistakes that a TE type makes. That is to say, to do something that's questionable in terms of its real legitimacy, but they've already done it before they've evaluated it on consistency. So that's the ENFJ. Now let's look at the ISTP. ISTP starts with a metaphysical consistency metric, TI, and then goes to a metaphysical knowledge, then goes to a physical action, SE. So it starts with metaphysical consistency, checks to make it consistent, and then acts upon it. And then after action, they check to make sure it's true. So for them, it's going to be an issue where manifesting their actions and making them consistent with what's the right thing to do, the best way, stuff is going to be their hidden agenda, and that's going to be throughout the way they behave is going to be manifesting simple, obvious, necessary truths about things that exist metaphysically. In other words, a metaphysical kind of knowledge, NI, says this is a cigarette pack. You don't have to do any reasoning to know it's a cigarette pack. You can tell right away. You just know it. Now, when it's applied to more complex problems is when it starts to seem a little bit magical to know the resolution of things that are complex. But that's what they do in their hidden agenda of the ISTP. So we've got, again, for ISTP, we start with metaphysical, then we go to physical, then metaphysical, and then lastly, we're going to have metaphysical FE, being about perception management. So after they've determined it's consistent, they've taken action, they've made sure it's consistent then with being the right thing, and then lastly, they will make sure it's good for perception management. So low priority. ESTP, like the ENTP, has the FE in the third slot, which means they're going to be quite charming if they develop it, at least for certain types of people. Trump, some people like him. Obviously, a lot of people do like him. A lot of people hate him. His kind of charm, I think, is a little bit less generalizable than ENTPs, who can figure out how to manage perceptions less for efficacy and more for consistency. So ESTP is going to start with SE, that's physical action, to take action first. What does that mean? It means about shit that's already decided, he's going to proceed forward on the next step, do the next thing. And the problem with it is it's not do the next thing that needs to be done to accomplish something, it's do the next thing that's been decided. That's opposed to TE, which is decide the best way to do something. Okay, so SE first, do the next thing that's been decided in his head, whatever. Note that that's a physical first. Then a second, he's going to have metaphysical TI to evaluate things against consistency with what, though? Consistency against what he's done in the past or what he's already determined to be true. Because then in the third slot, he's going to have FE. That's going to be managing perceptions, making sure people are cool with whatever it is he's doing. And only lastly does he actually evaluate whether the thing he's doing is right, correct, true, or anything else with the NI in the fourth slot. All right, so that's that quadra. Now let's go on to the quadra, which has INFP in it. INFP, ENFP, ISTJ, ESTJ. So, okay, let's start with INFP. INFP begins with the physical experience of valuing. The physical experience of valuing means actually emotions, which we don't seem to get as teased very well, is that it's actually a physical experience of a feeling. So if you experience fear, you know what that is like. You have an adrenaline rush, it changes the way your body feels. Same thing with other emotions as well, including things like love. It's a feeling that one experiences in your chest, or an infatuation, or whatever you want to call it. So those sort of things are physical, emotional responses to environmental realities. It's the most base level way to respond to something. It's the most animal way to respond to something, unless it's the most authentic way. It also is where we carry our weight in life. So note that they are physical first and are carrying all the weight of the world on their shoulders because, as with any FI Dom, they experience everything directly without any sort of abstract filterings. Everything is about how they feel about it, and they feel everything directly as physical sensations in response to the world. So that's physical first. Second, they're going to have, going to take metaphysical action upon it. you can see how the INFP has trouble being considered useful by others, because first they know how they feel about it, then they make meaning about it, they take metaphysical action, then they record what they just did, which is nothing physical but just metaphysical stuff, and and reference it in regard to their determined future plans. And then lastly, do they actually take any kind of action? And then in that case, they use their TE to determine, well, what action would I take if I were to actually get things accomplished? INFPs, therefore, are sneaky effective, and people don't perceive them as such. They get what they want, but they don't take a whole lot of action to do it. And they typically are hot chicks. Okay, now ENFP, in contrast, is a little more flighty than INFP. So ENFPs, they start with extroverted intuition like the ENTP, which means they are metaphysically acting before they even know what they're seeing. An ENFP like an ENTP will see one teeny shred of a big pile of data and extrapolate from that one teeny shred. Yeah, I know, they're all gorgeous and just incredibly like sexy as hell, and you just go like, you just like melt before them because they're so real. When an INFP smiles at you, you know she's not managing your perception. You know she likes you. Right. I didn't get I didn't get it at all before. It's like, oh, that's why people like INFPs. They're fucking. It's. I mean. It's the most. It's a weird experience to know that, like, oh shit. All what have those other. Exactly. What have I been doing? Like, I had these marriages where I really didn't have a lot of feelings at all that I could tell. It wasn't a feeling based thing. It certainly wasn't like I really want you. It's like I've determined you meet my criteria. And the fact that you like me is one of those criteria. And I can tell that you like me because you're sucking my dick. You know. But that's not the case with introvert feelers at all. I seek it so badly. It's like, oh, give me more of that. Anyway, you got me distracted, Unify. I was going, making such a good time, and I got stuck on INFP that I thought I might. Okay. So, ENFP, right? ENFP. So, they also have introvert feeling, which is great, but they use it as a tool function. They're first and foremost about possibilities. It makes them flighty. They're not necessarily considered to be particularly solid in relationships, although any type can be. I think ENFPs mean well, like ENTPs, but unlike ENTPs, they don't understand things through a consistency framework. So, like, I'm very, I'm very predictable in my relationships as to how I'm going to behave, what I'm willing to do, what I'm not going to do, where, like, manner in which I'm going to annoy you versus things you can rely on. Like, I'm not going to be shady in any regard. Why am I not going to be shady? Well, TI and FE tell me too much of a perceptual risk. If I'm shady, then I'll be considered a pariah. That's number one. And then number two, there's this consistency issue, ethics stuff, where it's like, well, I can't justify it, so I can't do it. If I can't justify it, I can't do it. So it's like ENTP is way more solid in their relationships with other people than ENFP. INFP is way more solid in their relationships with other people than ENFP. INFP because introverted feeling, when it comes to relationships with other people, it builds over time. It's cumulative, and it either, if it's healthy, introverted feeling, and it's people are being, both parties are being respected and their needs are being met and stuff like that, then it grows into this immovable ball of greed for the other person. And if you can get that, if you can get the other person to have that for you, you know you're golden, because then it's like they're not going anywhere. But ENFP is different. They're first and foremost about possibilities, and they like to be flighty in their greed. And so you shouldn't feel too super comfortable if you're with an ENFP in a relationship unless you know they're far along in their development. Don't start dating an INFP who's under 28 unless you know you don't want it to last, I would suggest. Same thing probably with a lot of ESFPs, but not all. Anyway, those are the NFPs, and then the other ones in that quadra are the STJs. ISTJ, who is somebody who begins with physical knowledge, in other words, memory and planning, and then goes directly to extrovert thinking. What steps do I take to get something accomplished? Goes to, from there, introverted feeling. How do I feel? How do I value shit in the world physical? And then lastly, they have the metaphysical action of extroverted intuition, which is something they do sparingly, but when they do it, they enjoy it a lot. So if you can get an ISTJ to do something creative, they're stoked, and they'll like you, they'll value you with their introverted feeling, and they do value. They're very loyal and very they're good friends for being boring and not really saying anything and not having a lot of shit going on. They're good friends, you know. I like them. And ESTJs, kind of the same deal, except they're more bossy. A lot of people don't necessarily like ESTJs, but that's only if they have them in a work capacity or like a dad capacity. If you're friends with them, they're endearingly clumsy at the social stuff. They've got they go TESI, NE, and then FI, and their FE is in the eighth slot. They don't get it. They're not terrible at it like an INTJ, but they're wooden. They're most wooden of all types, I think, the ESTJ. So, and the reason being, they go physical, TE, then they go physical, SI is knowledge, then they go metaphysical, NE is making meaning possibilities, and then lastly, how they feel about it, physical. So their evaluatory metrics are physical, and those are always the same, and then the perceiving are always opposites. So, and they dominate with the they start with the physical perceiving function ahead of the metaphysical one. So anyway, ESTJ functions like that, and it basically means that they come at it with solve the problem, and then what's the problem again, and where do we plan to be the problem to be? Oh yeah, that's right. Now I'm going to think about what that means, how we're going to solve this problem, and why it's important. And then lastly, I feel good because we dealt with that problem. Next problem? That's ESTJ. And then the last quadra, and then we're done with this extended video of Eric's breakdown of metaphysical and physical behaviors of these quadras, would be the one that has what? The SFPs. It's got ESFP, ISFP, and then INTJ, ENTJ. Okay. Let's start with the SFPs. ISFP understands things physically as a valuing thing first and foremost, then acts upon it. So an ISFP is the type that if you piss them off, they're not going to say anything until they suddenly smack you in the face. And then you'll know you made them angry. And then that's ISFP, FISE. So they go physical. They go value it physically, act upon it physically, and then after that they go know whether it's true, and then lastly they say, what do you do to make something happen? So they're an ineffective type. They're an ineffective type, except when they're motivated by their emotions to do something. In other words, if you're hanging out with an ISFP girl and she's going to decide all of a sudden when her emotion reaches critical mass that she does want you to get on her, and then it'll be abundantly clear. And until that moment, it won't be a no, but it won't be a yes yet either. And you'll be kind of like, and it's no good to try to ask them directly anything. There's no point in that. Because they don't like that. They don't want to have to be pinned down on shit. They don't like the way the TI pins people down between a couple of choices. Whether you choose A or B, you can't have them both. Well, I don't know. I might feel like having them both, though. And I might feel like B later, but I might feel like going back in time to have A afterwards. Now, figure out how to do that. Then TE goes, well, I'm in the fourth slot. I don't know. Ask Eric. You want what now? You want impossible thing A and impossible thing B in an impossible way, and to travel back into history to make it happen? Okay, let's see if we can figure this out. You know, that's what FI DOMs do. Their job is to demand the impossible by nature. Uh, okay, and that's good. That's why we have TE too. It's like, fuck it. I'm tired of hearing it's impossible. Let's make it happen. I like that. I like that aspect of TE. I like the defiant aspect of TE. I know you say it's logically impossible, Eric, but I'm going to do it anyway. I like that. That's the part of TE I like. I use that part of TE. When people tell me shit's impossible, I go, well, I'm going to do something anyway. I'm going to do some part of it. I'll figure it out. God damn it. All right, so that's ISFP. ESFP is going to be SE first. So they're going to be physical action first. Then they're going to be physical valuing. I acted. Did I like what I just did? Oh, yeah, I did. That's a sensible enough direction to go. Okay, then after that, they're going to say, now what do I do to make that thing more real or more continue? And then finally, they're going to go, now, was that the right thing to do? Not just did I like it, but was it right? That's the last thing they ask. So in that regard, they're likely to make a lot of mistakes. But, you know, shit happens. And then now the last two types of all, ENTJ and INTJ. ENTJ, starting with the old TE. A little extrovert think, let's make shit happen. Let's make some shit happen. Let's put on a fancy suit. Let's get some certification. Let's study some books. Let's be official. And then after that, introverted intuition. Because what's truer than what's obviously the way to do shit? You know? How do you, if you want to learn how to screw in a light bulb, you go to light bulb screwing in school and you get certified at it. That's what you do. All right, you get your shoulders up straight, because why wouldn't you? After all, the problem is posture. The solution is be straight. And that's an NI truth. Next, let's look at their third one, SE, hidden agenda. I'm going to make shit happen in this world. Eric is going to make people like him no matter what. And so is the ENTJ going to make shit happen. Going to make shit happen that's effective. And they're going to make sure it's true. And then at the very end, they're going to say, did I enjoy that, though? Did I want to do that? And then they remember at the end of the month, they go, oh, and then that made me feel bad, and that made me feel bad, and that made me feel good. Okay, cataloged all my feelings about things. Now, next month, it's like their sleepy week, introverted feeling week for an ENTJ. INTJs are a little less sensibly organized. They have NI first, which means, of course, they evaluate the truth of things first, then determine how best to take action on that truth. Then they determine if they value it, and lastly, of course, they take they actually take the action. So they determine what action in the second order of operations. Then they see how they feel about it, and then they take actual action last, and that's what puts them at a disadvantage a bit, like the INFJ. However, to go with the metaphysical physical, again, these are three physicals, one metaphysical. Goes metaphysical knowledge first, then physical. Like INFJ goes metaphysical, physical. And they're kind of reversed like that. Anyway, that finishes all of the types of Eric's little metaphysical and physical breakdown of your 16 personality types. Any questions or comments before we end this exciting, long-winded video? Thanks for watching. Remember, I'm uncertified, so take everything with multiple grains of salt.